Hey, welcome back to another sports rant. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Like the videos, leave a comment. Appreciate it. Hello and welcome back to another sports rant. I'm your host Max Gallegos, and today we are talking about something very serious. Wemby is out for the season. He has deep vein thrombosis in his right shoulder, which I guess in like layman's terms, it is a blood clot, essentially. And so he will be out for the rest of the season. They've apparently they've put him on blood thinners. The risks and the dangers behind this, we've seen it with like Chris Bosh and Brandon Ingram, who had very similar um, kind of kind of blood clots, kind of this other similar issue, similar deep this similar condition. Is it you can there's a risk of being having a stroke. There's a risk of a heart attack because there's a risk of lung failure because when this deep vein thrombosis can it's like once it's dislodged from like say his shoulder or from where it is in his shoulder, it can become dislodged and then like moving within your blood paths, oops, and then like get in his brain, which is not good, which that's how you can cause a stroke, or in his lungs or heart, which we don't want to see. Nobody, that would be awful. So just for his health and safety, the Spurs, he's going to be out for the rest of the season, which is really sad. We are all very excited to see Wemby play. We all wish him a speedy recovery, but that this is something it's can be scary because this could be a career-ending injury and be very serious. It was just something I really wanted to talk about, make sure that that was mentioned first, um, because it's really sad to see. Make sure you like give a thoughts and prayers out to him and his family, because it sucks, and that's something nobody can control. And I know for him, he's somebody who takes incredibly good care of himself. This is just like not like this is something that nobody really could predict or stop, or we just hope that he can recover and we can see him play again. Alrighty, in other news, we have some more college basketball to get to. Just here in my notes, I was two really big upsets last night. We had Michigan State versus Michigan. They were over there in Ann Arbor. 75 Michigan State, 62 Michigan. They've just, ooh. I think really the story of this game is how having elite guard play is really key to having a really good team because gosh, Michigan just got worked on that specific position. Michigan has some really good front court. Their front court is insane with Wolf and Golkin, but they still got out rebounded, they got outplayed. They had two starters who combined for one had 31 minutes, one had 27 respectively, and they combine for 5 points. That is just unacceptable at this level. That is frankly unacceptable at any level. You play that long, that for that much of the game, and that's how much you contribute just on the points perspective is mind-boggling. And really, it's like the opposite for Michigan State. Michigan State has some elite guard play. And I think with one of the one of the things I've run across with this Michigan team that is like not just a glaring flaw, it is a big, huge, major flaw. And that's if you want to get deep into the tournament, you want to get play farther and farther and farther into March and into April. You have to have some really good guard play. You have to have a good because a good guard makes a mediocre big look way better. A good big makes a mediocre to bad guard look worse because they can't. You have to get them the ball. Like it's like it's like there's limitations. You have more options and more you have more options with a better with better guard play coming off of, like just coming into March in close games, when you're playing another top 25 team, like if you're Michigan State and you're Michigan, if you have that elite guard play and you're playing close, you need a guy who can either defend the ball really well, defend a good guard and like prevent shot creation, or you need a guy who can just make his own shot and make threes, or can create for the other people around him, can make plays, can do can in that in key moments get open shots, make threes, make his own shot, and defend, be able to defend the other team's best guard. So otherwise, this is like um that's really the reality. Michigan is a team very similar to uh, like a like Kansas, where I'm just like I am not high on them at all. I think if they're going into this into March, I'm not looking forward to like really watching them play because it's I don't think they'll make it very far. I'm gonna be really honest because they have some great bigs. They have two 7-footers, but they're still like they still are losing these games like where you are playing close again, it's a good guard. I think New Mexico could beat them. I think any team with a with good guard play, I think Purdue could definitely beat them because this with good guard play, like Alabama, who is like on like a losing streak right now, but still could beat them because of their elite guard play and because their guards are horrid. Like I said, um, they turned over the ball, like turning over the ball too much. They shot terribly from three. Yeah, like below 25%, 23.8% from three. That is atrocious. And like it wasn't even like Michigan State. Then the game was close because you have like such good, because you have elite bigs, and but having I feel like having an elite guard and and a slightly below average big is better than having an elite big and a below average guard, because in basketball you want to have I would that's just my preference. Maybe it's just because I played guard, but also because if you have that elite guard play, if you have that elite guard play, um, it can kind of eliminate, and you can kind of move like if like I said earlier, you can create threes, you can create your own shot, you can force turnovers, um, especially in those close games where 3 pointers are so important. And if you can score the three ball, you can stay in the game, you can start running away with it, or you can create really open, easy shots, like a wide open layup for your big man, or create or have a wide open cutter. So it's just it's something. Michigan is I whenever I'm picking for my bracket, I will probably pick against Michigan in the first round. Just depends on who they're playing, but that they're a team to watch out for. They're probably on upset alert. I know I'm shitting on them, but they're a good team for sure, and they have elite bigs, but their guard play is so bad that I cannot trust them at all. They are it's it was like I said, it was atrocious. They had two guys combined for 5 points, which in that close of a game and that high of stakes, if you were a top 15, top 25 team, that should not be allowed. But they are so good down low that they are a top 25 team according to the AP poll and to the coaches poll. So But you'll get nights like this. You'll get nights where you just get worked on the perimeter. And it happened. Like it is what it is. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Um, we had and then another game last night, another top 25 matchup. We had unranked Villanova versus number 16 Marquette. This was just like this is just not Marquette's night, not at all. They were they just shot incredibly poorly, and Nova shot really well. There, it was like for the most part, it was kind of even. I look back at their other matchup where they played them, it was more or less like 13, like they had like what 13 turnover. They forced 13 turnovers in their game that they beat Nova in. But Nova is like we say is a good program. Marquette, it's not necessarily what we haven't seen because they've been kind of hot and cold recently. Um, just all season, just kind of been like this kind of big roller coaster, very similar to like what we saw with UConn, just not on like a national like they're not back to back national title winners, so it's not as like shocking. Um, but like it's for like in just in like they just didn't shoot us. Like that was really the biggest takeaway. Nova just made way more shots than they like it was on every other metric they were it was pretty much like a dead even split. Villanova just made way more shots. It was kind of just a beat down there. But like other than that, it was like they didn't force as many turnovers. Villanova got very hot, and Marquette's gonna be fine, but it's still like yeah, it's kind of been the story of the season for them. But otherwise, I'm gonna move on to some other things because I didn't want to spend too much time on these. We have another couple of games to look forward to today. We have some pretty key matchups coming up today. We have number 17 Kentucky versus number 4 Alabama. Alabama coming off their loss to Missouri, and Kentucky really wanting to rise through the rankings tonight. That's going to be key. We got some other teams that are like fringe, like the mid majors that everybody likes to talk about is Akron versus Ohio today. Akron is going to be they think they have a major. They don't have a major bid. It was they have a um they're shoe-ins for the tournament for sure. They're probably going to win their conference so they can get an automatic bid. That's what I was thinking about. So they play Ohio today. We'll see just how that pans out, just for them. We have Yale, Columbia. Yale is another team that everybody has in their bracketology as their big upset. They have big upset potential. They upset Auburn last year. They have another like they have more upset potential than most other because they don't really turn over the ball. They're just pretty well run program, and they've been rolling through the Ivy League recently. That they're 9-0 in conference, but it is the Ivy League. But and then we have Duke, Illinois, number 3 Duke. Illinois is a very good they're a sneaky good team. They kind of have on like that same level as like probably like an 8, 9, 10 seed. There'll be uh but it's like you got to stop Cooper Flag. They've upset a lot of good teams. They've played pretty well up to this point. Uh, I haven't looked at a ton about them, but otherwise, I probably like without something major happening, I think it's probably just gonna be Duke's game, and this is like key for both of them because if Illinois wins this game, they will probably move into the standings. This is like trouble for Duke, but other than that, I don't really have a strong opinion. Missouri, Arkansas is really key. Really is um, a really big and important game for both teams. Arkansas is trying to get into the tournament. They're right now one of the first 4 out. Uh, they're fighting for their tournament lives. Well, Missouri is. I think I would probably take Arkansas in this. Missouri just after upsetting Alabama. Um, that's like big emotional victories. It's usually better to go against that team when you're just like when you after that big win, you're kind of like, oh, you're not thinking on the same lines. Arkansas is really fighting for their tournament life, so I'd probably take Arkansas in this one. Um, but I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri beat them. But it's still, this is college basketball. This is the great thing about it is like there's so much like, well, this team is really good, but and as we get closer and closer to the conference tournaments, everything's really gonna change. Then we have probably one of the better matchups of the day, Gonzaga at St. Mary's versus St. Mary's. Um, this one's gonna this one has a lot of conference implications. Whoever wins this game, I probably would take, but just judging on what the game looks like, probably either to win the conference or to like if it's close, probably gonna take the other guy to win the conference. We'll see though. They're both very good, very well run programs. Both gonna be in the tournament for sure. It's like eight, but they're like yeah, like the 8, 9, 10 seeds. So we'll see what happens. But like they're both very like Gonzaga is like a national title kind of program. Like they may not have won a national title, but they are a national title style program. They play really hard. They're good. They're good teams. Good teams. And then finally the last game that I really had highlighted for today is San Diego State versus Utah State. I love talking Mountain West basketball here on another sports rant, and I will continue to talk about them until I leave uh, New Mexico. But this one's really important for both teams. I know New Mexico is really in the driver's seat of the Mountain West right now, but both of these teams have that upset potential over New Mexico. Utah State they lost 2 games to them, so it's you got it. They're key. San Diego State was probably the hardest like Mountain West schedule coming up. They play Utah State tonight. They play UNM again. Then I think is Wyoming and then Boise. So they have a lot. They have their hands full. But this is a team that has been to the national championship game. They are they are pretty well run. They are one of the teams that I think is like a sleeper in the Mountain West. They've kind of been beaten up, but they have some really good wins on their schedule. They beat Houston. They beat Creighton uh, at home, but they also lost. Oh, I mean, they also beat like one of the teams that everybody's kind of like, ooh, this is like juicy, like upset pick as like UC San Diego. Beat them first game of the season, so we'll see with that. But they've also lost some pretty big and important in-conference games you to Utah State, to UNM, to UNLV, and to Colorado State. So it's kind of they have to win out if they really want to have this like really big consideration. If they want to be in that good consideration for winning the Mountain West, of course, you have to have a good wins on their schedule. They do have good wins, but they also have these bad losses. I feel like they know what they're doing though. That feels like a very grown up program. Whereas Utah State, I'm more as a New Mexico fan. I am more worried about San Diego State than I am about Utah State in the Mountain West Conference tournament. Um, just because like Utah State first year head coach. We've beaten them twice. San Diego State feels like much more of a threat. Um, and just coming into this, we'll see how the cookie crumbles for sure. I'll maybe definitely be watching this game specifically. I'll probably have a reaction up afterwards to just kind of break it down. But otherwise, San Diego State, and they're kind of a team that even if they don't necessarily win the Mountain West or play well in conference, in the tournament they can be very good. Uh, like we saw a couple of years back. Pretty, they're a well-run organization. If you can tell me which one of their probably one of their best players of all time, leave it in the comments. That would be awesome. My brother used to go watch him play. It's Kawhi Leonard, um, who was I, w- I was digging back in a little bit of history recently while I was bored and doing some research, and yeah, they had some good battles back in the Mountain West has been always been kind of a good basketball conference, an underrated basketball conference. But we'll see how the cookie crumbles. We'll see what happens. With everything else happening. I do want to highlight one last thing before we head out. There are some tournament teams to look out for. Uh, like I said, San Diego State, UC San Diego. Oh, there's a lot of San Diego in here. UC Irvine, and VCU. So a lot of these teams right now, they're very hot in this like bracketology, talking about what they do well, how many wins they have. They don't turn over the Yale is another team that I really like that um they they're good they're really good at one thing. They're really small, so they're not ranked. They'll probably be a lower seed, but they have that upset potential to like upset like Yale did last year. And there's always one of these teams that just like we never saw coming, and they're like people try and predict and see. I really like the guy. Can't think of his name now, but uh, TikTok guy. He makes the trapezoid. I love that. I always comment on his things because he's got some good information. Go check him out. Can't remember. I'll probably put him. I'll probably tag him below. But he's got a lot of good thoughts. Good analytical guy. Um, but yeah, like when it comes to UC Irvine, UC San Diego, there are these hot kind of like topical teams. I know one of the things that Akron, which I mentioned, they're like 20 plus wins, but they're also they're worrisome because they're really small. But also like you can win that way. There's not one way to win. And if you're going to be smaller, I feel like that's better than being too slow and too big. If you're going to be too fast and too small, I feel like in in the tournament that's a better way to win. Just don't turn over the ball. Like if you're smaller, you can't turn it over. But otherwise, like UC Irvine, there's just like kind of like this. Uh, they have that upset potential. I'll do a little bit more research. Well, of course, I'll probably bring out a little bit more on those guys specifically because of their upset potential. But anyway, that'll probably be the video. Peace out. Let's go.